Welcome to Boots in Baltimore. I'm LeeAnn Blanchard. I'm here with Gail Rosen, owner, artist, and gallerist of Andamento Studio and Gallery. So, what does andamento mean?
Andamento is a word in Italian. It has a meaning in music and it has a meaning in mosaics. The meaning in mosaics refers to the flow of the line. So when you put down the tessera, which are the little pieces in mosaics, which can be anything. It can be blocks of marble like the Romans used. It can be glass. It can be stones. It can be beads. It can be most anything. And you set them in a row. If you set them larger to smaller and on a curve, when someone looks at that, that's the way their eye is going to
It's
leave.
continuous.
Yeah. A lot of the Roman mosaics, there's a central figure and there'll be a circle of tessera around it in the background, but to set that off. And then the rest of the background might be checkerboard or could be anything. But modern mosaicists are paying a lot of attention to andamento. It's one of the basic skills and languages of mosaic.
Interesting. Tessera, like tesseract or tessellation. Okay. We are learning all sorts of new words today. So what types of things do you offer in your shop?
Okay, so the shop is focused on mosaics and jewelry, and more recently, a lot of minerals and crystals. I started out wanting it to be a mosaic gallery. And mosaic wall art in general is not a common everyday purchase for most people.
True.
And it's hard to buy that for a gift for someone. So I knew I had to have some other offering just to keep things going and keep the rent paid. So I decided on jewelry, and I brought in some people who did polymer clay jewelry because that kind of looks like mosaics. You know?
Yeah.
And then I kind of noticed how much easier it was to sell jewelry than wall art. And so even though I had sworn I wouldn't, I started making jewelry, and I've really had fun with it. I don't do the metal work, but I buy the bezels, which is the part that holds whatever it is. And I use glass or minerals or stones to fill that in and to make kind of a mini mosaic. Sometimes I use a whole crystal, a whole mineral like this one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So this uses what I call a goddess stone, which takes me in another direction. These are my favorite stones in the store. You can kind of see a lot of the flash and dazzle here. There's labradorite, which is really beautiful colors in it.
It almost looks like abalone.
Yeah, it has that same kind of iridescence, right? And I've got tiger's eye, and I've got rose quartz, and I've got celestite, and I've got all kinds of things. And I like these gray things that at first glance are very unimpressive.
Kind of lumpy.
Yep. But they are naturally occurring concretions. So they're colonies of microorganisms that fossilized about 300 million years ago. And what just fascinates me about them is they come out of the ground like this. Nothing's done to them.
So
they're not carved or
yeah, it almost looks like river stone that's been melted together.
If you think of a Petri dish with colonies of microorganisms in it, the circles around circles and the circles against circles start to make sense.
Like bubbles squished together. Yeah. So
I fell in love with these a long time ago, and I started using them in my jewelry and in my mosaics. And lots of other stone geode bits and turquoise and all kinds of things. So I started going to the gem and mineral shows to get mosaic supplies, and people started asking me for
those because they're different.
Right. They wanted to buy the goddess stone by itself just to have. So I started bringing back enough for people to
acquire themselves.
Yes. So it's jewelry, mosaics, and minerals and crystals. Now, a lot of the mosaics in the room, the ones back here, for instance, are mine, and most of the ones downstairs. But I have a large wall that is my guest exhibit wall, and every 3 months that changes out. So I have 4 different shows a year, and I've really been lucky in enticing other mosaic artists to show here, and people from Virginia and Pennsylvania, of course, because it's convenient for them. But I've also had people from Washington State and people from Minnesota and Detroit, and so it's been wonderful. I go to the Society of American Mosaic Artists Conference, SAMA Conference, which is recently combined with the Stained Glass Artists of America. Anyway, I go there and I go into the workshop rooms and I talk about what I do and that I need guest artists, anybody who would like to, and I try to make it reasonable and appealing for people to want to come and share their work. And I do my best to sell it for them.
Yes.
So I've been really lucky having phenomenal artists. I've had local people as well, and it's just a great thing to be able to showcase other artists' work. Mm-hmm. It's really fun, really, really fun.
So what got you started on this journey? Like, how did you fall in love with stones and crystals and mosaics?
Well, some years back, my wife was interested in mosaics, and she wanted to take a course they had at American Visionary Arts Museum. They still do sometimes an Intro to Mosaics course. And Rick Shelley was teaching it, who's a local artist. And so we went, and she got hooked immediately. And she wanted to put a workshop in the basement, and so we did. And you know, I was playing at it too. Mm-hmm. We were having a good time together. And then I had some loss in my life. And for a while there, I found that all I wanted to do was go down in the basement and move little bits of stone and glass around. It's very meditative, and I just found it healing is the only word for it. And so when I filled up all the walls in the house, I had a little problem. So
you need to buy a bigger house.
Right. And one day, Susanna Seiger, who owns Ma Petite Shoe up on the avenue in Hamden, and is a good friend of mine, I was here visiting her, and she said, you know, there's a space available, and I want to look at it because I want to tell another friend of mine about it. And I said, oh, I'd like to see it. She said, okay. So we called the landlord here, and we came in, and it looked very different then. But I stood in the space, and I said, huh.
You could see it.
Well, this could be fun. And what I say is that was my business plan. So how I judge whether my business is successful is, am I having fun?
Yes.
Yes. So I tell people I built myself a playhouse here, and I come and I work here, and I create here, and I'm thrilled because if people come in and play with me and want to share and want me to tell them about the things and want to take something home and are pleased to find something that suits them. But that's basically it. And I was lucky enough to be at an age and stage in my life when I could
pursue this. Yeah.
I've done lots of other things, but serial careers we all have.
We all have, that is for sure. Well, I think that's really telling and moving and beautiful that mosaic at its essence is taking broken things and fitting those things that could cut or those things that could be discarded and then turning them into something that's cohesive and whole and beautiful.
Exactly. I might quote you on that.
Feel free.
Yeah, there's a lot of metaphors in mosaic. You know, our country is referred to often as a mosaic, where each piece retains its individuality.
Right.
You're not smushing them together. You're not taking yellow and red and making orange. You're putting yellow next to red, and it's fascinating. It's a really fascinating process, and it's really exciting to me to see how differently people interpret that, and the different subjects of mosaics, and the different styles of mosaics, and the different materials, and the different substrates. The part you put the mosaic on, you know, people mosaic shoes, and people mosaic hats, and people, you know, all sorts of things.
Three-dimensional things that you wouldn't normally associate with mosaic.
Right. So it's fun.
It is fun.
And I love sharing it.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's pretty obvious. I will take a gazillion pictures. So excellent. Yes. Excellent. So, what is your favorite or what's been really popular in the store?
Well, you know, whatever you've done most recently is your new baby. You know? So,
that is true.
But I really still enjoy working with the goddess
stones.
And I use them in my mosaics. Like there's one there, and there's two in the gray areas of that one up there. I just am fascinated by them, or some people would say obsessed by them. And
so would you say that's kind of your personal style, or?
Well, my style is pretty varied. I use stained glass too. And I've been lucky to take classes from a lot of different mosaic artists. And so I've learned different techniques that I'll play with and combine. And So some people would call that eclectic. Some people would say I haven't really found my own voice. But I call it playing. Really, this is my playhouse. I get to do what I want. It's mine. Nobody can tell me. So
yes.
So I really try out different things and do what I'm moved by. So sometimes I will start a mosaic based on a material I want to work with. Sometimes I'll start a mosaic with an idea of seasons, for instance. I sell a lot of trees, and I do trees in each
like
of
a
the 4
concept
seasons.
that you're trying to capture.
Right. Or a feeling. When I was grieving and I was doing mosaics, I was making things that were contained and oppressed and things that were explosive. And, you know, it was all of that roiling feeling that was kind of coming out in the art. So there's lots of different ways to approach it, and they're all good and they're all right. So, you can take classes in mosaics. There are a couple of people locally who still do classes, not as often as before times.
Right.
But since the pandemic, there has been a real explosion in online mosaic classes that you can take. Mosaic Arts Online is the premier one, and also there's others. And you can, when you buy those classes, you get them in pieces, and you can play them however often you want, over and over, and you can take it at your own speed. And you can also contact the instructor if you need help. Or I tell people if they do one of them and they get stuck, they can bring it in here and I'll work with them or make suggestions. But it's a wonderful way to learn, though it's really also wonderful to be in a class with a dozen other people and get to see how everybody interprets the assignments differently and how everybody works in a different direction. It's just fun.
I could see the appeal of both, definitely.
Yeah.
Whew. Kind of made me want to play.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're filming in October. Christmas is coming up.
Right.
What would you suggest for people who are shopping for those impossible people? They're so hard to find something for.
Aren't we all?
No, I'm pretty easy.
Okay.
I like everything.
Okay. Well, jewelry is the obvious, and a lot of people appreciate that. And the thing about my jewelry is it's one of a kind. Even though I might make a piece with a goddess stone and turquoise in it again and again, it's a different goddess stone, and it's a different, lay of the turquoise. Or I use a lot of dichroic glass, which is really bright and has multiple colors in layers inside the glass. So it can change colors as you tilt it. And so I can do a heart that's in reds and a heart that's in purples and a heart that's in greens. And I may do them repeatedly. But again, each piece is
because it's handmade
and hand chosen. And so there's always
variability. Yeah.
When I make mosaics, I always take pictures and I put them on my website. So my website, andamentogallery.com, ANDAMENTO gallery.com, has all of my work, the jewelry and the mosaics. I also have pages that show samples of my guest artist work and a schedule of when they'll be coming in. And what I really focus on for the holidays is having things that are special and affordable for people. I do a lot of small mosaics, and I encourage my guest artists to offer a variety of things. The guest artist I have currently, Darcelle Deneau, is from Detroit, and her pieces are just magnificent. They go from this size to about like this, and they're stained glass, and they're very painterly, and perspective is stunning and fascinating. But they're fine art, so they're a little pricey more for some people. And the woman I have coming in next, Sarah Fishbein, calls her mosaics pop art mosaics, and it's kind of like cartoony Liechtenstein faces with you'll take some pictures, with captions and bubbles, right? And they're just great. They're fun. And again, her pieces are like 2x5 and 3x3, and they're fine art, and they take a lot of time. So I asked her because we're doing it during this season, if she would let me sell prints. So she has a great photographer, and I have a super printer. And so I'm able to sell approximately 12 by 12 prints. And instead of being $5,000 for a piece of art that's original, it's a really excellent gift for $50. And they're great hung in groups, and they're they're really fun, and people are starting to enjoy them already. I've had some samples and sold some here already.
Yeah, I think people who like that are interested in seeing it done differently, you know, in a different way. Yeah, that's so cool.
And then of course there's the minerals and crystals, which I have a lot of, and I do print these little tags. Sphalerite is about confidence and adaptability and protection and discernment and strength and resilience, and opalite is optimism and curiosity and new beginnings and clarity. So I have that information. I have a book here for people to source. And some people really resonate with that kind of thing. And some people just like the beauty of the stones, and I'm up for any of it. I go to the gem or mineral shows, and I'm always looking for new things that I hadn't seen before. Tiger's eye is something we're all familiar with, but at the last show I went to, I found raw tiger's eye. So it's just the broken rock, and you can see the striations, and you can see the iridescence before it's even polished. It's amazing.
Interesting.
And I like stones that are, here's another word for you, botryoidal. And that means like a bunch of grapes. So there's like minerals that make like bubbles. Yeah. So hematite is usually seen like this, but I got some botryoidal hematite that has these little bubbles in it that are interesting, and grape agate that I'm attracted to that kind of stuff. So it's fun. And the towers are usually, they've been selling the towers all smooth all around, and they're beautiful. This one's lapis. It's gorgeous. But lately, they've been showing towers that are more like this, with the openings in them, the natural, and you can see the crystal formations inside. And there's something much sexier about those. I like them a lot. They're really interesting. So
those are cool.
And you know, you can get minerals online. Yes, you can. I could buy them online, but I go to the big show in Tucson, Arizona, and in Denver, Colorado, because I'm not buying by the lot. I'm not buying I'm picking out individual pieces,
ones you want,
the ones I want, and the ones that I think people will enjoy. So everything is hand selected and curated by me, and hopefully people get as excited as I do about all of it.
And you have good taste.
I try.
It's obvious. This is an absolutely beautiful shop. If you haven't been in, you really need to come in. It's just really neat. So people could shop online though with you if they wanted to.
Yes, all of the jewelry is online and the mosaics are online. Now, it's always better if you can to come in and see. And then if you decide to shop online, at least you'll have a better idea of what you're really looking at.
Like, I really love that. Let me go home and measure my space. And then come back.
Right. Because it's really hard to photograph mosaics because they change with the light, they reflect, and the colors can shift depending on the material. So it's always better to be in person.
Yeah, they're three-dimensional on purpose.
They are.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure.
It was fascinating. I've learned new words, and I've seen beautiful, beautiful things. So again, this is LeeAnn Blanchard for Boots in Baltimore. Come to Andamento. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.